our matchup for week number 3 versus Tensor's 10-star team. Now, as you can tell, this is unfortunately not a how-to team build in Pokemon segment, because I am an idiot. I have a button tied to what starts and stops my recording, which happens to be the minus sign on my number pad, which happens to be used very often during team building. As you can see, there's a lot of minus signs in here. So there's just chunks of footage in my desktop that are completely unusable because it's incoherent and doesn't give a full assessment of what team building looks like. So we're going to try again doing that on week 4 for our matchup, but for now I'm just going to explain where my head was at during that team building process. So the basic idea of these 6 Pokemon you see here is that Tensor's team is a very strong Trick Room team that relies really heavily on Cresselia, Ursaluna, Hariyama, and Amogus as their main 3, or main 4, sorry. However, I wanted to pay some respect to some of the lower tier Pokemon and Pokemon that have not been used yet, such as Landorus Therian and Cradilly. Both of those Pokemon happen to be the 2 Pokemon that gave my general game plans a couple of issues. So let's go ahead and go over what the game plans are, because I am bringing 2. The first one is to completely deny Trick Room altogether. And we do this with, of course, Word Here. The Cover Cloak, we can block things like Fake Out, allowing us to move on that first turn. And the move that we will be clicking is Imprison, because this allows us to stop our opponent from using Protect as long as Word Here is on the field, and more importantly, Trick Room. The reason why this is important is because Cresselia is actually really difficult for me to KO in a single turn without using 2 attacks. So it would have to be like a Covert Cloak attacker next to like a ghost type such as Houndstone. However, I had a different idea for Houndstone in this game. So the Word Here you see in front of you is our way of stopping Trick Room from going up. However, we still needed a way to capitalize on our opponent not getting Trick Room up, and our way to do that is, of course, Dracovish. Just like last week, Dracovish has a pretty solid matchup this week. As long as it's able to move first, Vicious Wind should be able to knock out just about everything. Of course, like I said, we are paying respect to both Cradilly and Landorus Therian with this set. Landorus Therian, if it has the Choice Scarf, would be able to outspeed us regardless, so we are just trying to outspeed some of the slower Choice Scarf Pokemon. And instead of having a different coverage move such as like Outrage, we've decided to go with Leech Life because that actually hits Cradilly the hardest for Dracovish. But the end goal is to be clicking Vicious Rend into just about everything. We are also packing the Psychic Fangs in case Cresselia is running something like Reflect or Light Screen, and so that we can hit the Amogus. Our next Pokemon is, of course, Clefairy. During the calculations during this match, we found that Helping Hand Vicious Rend actually ends up KOing more Pokemon than just straight Vicious Rend, and so Clefairy's Helping Hand was quite necessary, and it has a dual mode that it'll be playing for us later on in the second half of the team. Other than that, just a really good support Pokemon with Follow Me and Fredguard, and with pretty solid physical bulk, allowing it to take on things like Ursaluna and Hariyama. Our final Pokemon for our anti-Trick Room mode is Citrus Berry Thundurus. If Word Here does manage to go down without taking out Cresselia earlier in the game, we are also packing Taunt on our Thundurus, as well as Scary Face. Scary Face is really nice on this Pokemon because it allows us to have Dracovish outspeed things such as that Choice Scarf, Landorus Therian, or if we lose our Choice Scarf. But the other really fun thing that this can do is we can actually use it on our partner Pokemon, having their speed and allowing them to move first in Trick Room, because Prankster gives Scary Face increased priority. Now the final move on this Pokemon was Wild Bolt Storm. This does mean that we can't hit something like Ursaluna or Landorus Therian, but both of those Pokemon match up really poorly into Dracovish, and Clefairy is also packing Chilly Water for those Pokemon. Our second mode of this team is allowing our opponent to get Trick Room up. So this will likely be accomplished with something like Houndstone, Regirock, of course being our let our opponent get Trick Room up mode, as well as Clefairy. Clefairy is actually slower than everything except for Amogus in Trick Room, and it is also slower than Amogus unless it goes medium speed. So this allows something like Encore to become super threatening. Under Trick Room, if our opponent decides to use Protect or Fake Out, we can Encore them into that move, meaning that they cannot choose anything else for the next 4 turns. And if they are under Trick Room, this does mean that they are essentially useless for the duration of Trick Room. Weird will likely also be coming because, as I said, 2 of the strongest Trick Room attackers that our opponent has is Ursaluna and Hariyama, 2 Pokemon that cannot be immune to Intimidate with their highest damaging set, making Intimidate really valuable in those sets. Houndstone is also really good in this matchup because our opponent only has Mega Camerupt. As you can see, this team kind of does disrespect Mega Camerupt quite a bit, but I believe that Dracovish and Regirock can get the job done against that Pokemon. But because our opponent has a very physically offensive team, we are fluffy, which does mean that we take reduced damage there. Last Specs, Ice Fang, and Psychic Fangs are really good coverage for our opponent's team and hits just about everything. And with the safety goggles, we can ignore things like the Amogus, or be able to put pressure on it without having to fear something like Spore. And then the final Pokemon is our classic Iron Defense Body Press, Regirock, who's also packing Ice Punch for any stray Landorus Therian that wants to try and slow this Pokemon down or hit it with a strong Earthquake. Body Press, like I said, is pretty solid in the matchup, and Regirock is just bulky enough to not be threatened by anything that Mega Camerupt wants to do. Even a Mega Camerupt Earth Power does, I believe, to hit KOS, but if we have an Iron Defense set up already, our Body Press does Oko that Pokemon back. Nothing on my team can underspeed a Mega Camerupt, so we are going to have to play to a outside of Trick Room mode if we want to beat that Pokemon, but our opponent has yet to use it, so I wasn't sure how much to respect it. But anyways, this is the team for this week. No Mega T-Tar feels kind of awkward, but of course, we are bringing what I believe is our strongest 6 in this matchup. So let's go ahead and get ready for the game. Good luck to our opponent, and yeah, let's get ready. Alright, we have made it to the match. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sets that we are bringing. We have a Guts Ursaluna, we have a Citrus Berry Cresselia, Rocky Helmet Amogus, Life Orb Glastrier. I did not prep for Glastrier at all. No Cradily and no Landorus. Also kind of Smash. That's okay. Steelix doesn't really have anything to hit here. I guess it hits Stratosphere for super effective. And Assault Vest of Hariyama. Something I should tell Tensor. Guts is also suboptimal unless you're specifically expecting Will-O-Wisp, which I guess makes sense in this matchup. I did show that I'm willing to run it on my Houndstone, but Thick Fat, if you're not going to be running a Flamethrower because you have it on your Ursaluna, definitely important to switch to Thick Fat there. Okay, let's go ahead and tell our opponent good luck. Okay. go with my anti-trick room strategy to start off. Everything here absolutely requires the trick room in order to function. I think it would be silly to give up our advantage in that. I think I'm just gonna bring the 4 that I had planned for that. The only thing I could really see changing here is potentially Clefairy for something like Houndstone. Just because it does hit harder and we might need the extra offense. Let's go ahead and see how it goes from here. Alright, we see a Glastrier Hariyama lead. So that Intimidate doing plenty of work here. Okay, so I believe that I did this count before, but let's go ahead and make sure quickly. Vanquish. Which is right now. Yeah, at 2 base power. 2 times base power. This Hariyama is dead. I think that I actually kind of want to slow play this a little bit. Saving the Dracovish for later does seem alright to me. I mean, is it in any danger? I'm really taking damage. Let me see. We have 124 HP. And his strongest move against me is going to be close combat. You're not burned of the Assault Vest. So close combat's going to do 70%. And let's see. Last year. The only thing to keep in mind is that both of these Pokemon are intimidated. No, there's no reason to switch out. I'm going to go ahead and go Psychic here. And then Glastrier is super bulky. We can go ahead and Vicious Rend the Glastrier. Yeah, I like that. Okay, Fake Out goes into Dracovish. That's okay. Psychic comes out, does a good chunk to Hariyama. Icicle Crash comes out, and Dracovish is gonna live that one. Okay, we are in danger of losing our Hariyama here. Or sorry, our Dracovish here. If we don't go after the Hariyama, I guess we could double target either Pokemon and realistically decay. Yeah, this looks like it's max attack. Last year as well. I think actually the play that I'm going to go ahead and make here, I'm going to switch into Clefairy, and let's go ahead and Vicious Rend the Hariyama slot. With this play, we should be able to live anything the Glastrier wants to do, and we'll be able to KO the Hariyama or deal big damage if the Hariyama decides to switch. Yeah, let's go ahead and go for that. Clefairy gonna come in, Vicious Rend takes out the Hariyama. Glastrier goes for another Icicle Crash, and we do live next to the Friend Guard. Alright, Cresselia now to switch in. So, with our Weird Ear no longer in the field, we want to see Hellingham Vicious Rend does have a chance to KO a Cresselia, so let's go ahead and go for it. Hellingham Boost comes out, Vicious Rend gonna go ahead and take out that Cresselia. Heavy Slam into the Clefairy, does live it. Okay. Here we have a pretty safe play. I'm gonna go ahead and go for the Balmy and Vicious Rend here. Vicious Rend does come out with the Ursa Luna. Vicious Rend hits the Glastrier and takes it out in one hit. And now we can go ahead and give a Hellingham boost to Vicious Rend. Clinical game, absolutely dominated by that Dracovish. was so dominant that honestly, I'm not really sure. Obviously, to me, the change-up that he has to be making is Amogus, and I don't think that's enough with what we have. So let's go ahead and bring this in. And I'm just going to adjust my play based on what is necessary. Like I said, the only other change is if this game does not go well, I can switch out the Clefairy for using my account, so that Pokemon is carrying the safety goggles. Outside of Amogus, I'm not really sure what his best switch up is going to be. Let's see, also, how much damage did we have to do to take out the 72 to the Glastrier? Let's see, is that possible with this bulky Glastrier set? It is. It's actually the minimum pull that we can get. Okay. We see Cresselia, Hariyama, and lead. I'm going to go ahead and click Imprison here. And then, of course, we are going to lock into the juice moment here. I'm actually going to go after the... Let's see. We're going to go after the Cresselia. With Imprison here, Cresselia should not be able to set up the Trick Room. And because of the fake out, so though he can stop us from doing damage this turn, he cannot stop us from preventing Trick Room from going down here. Fake out goes into the weird ear. Unfortunately, Covert Cloak's going to go ahead and make sure that we do get to move, and Cresselia cannot use Trick Room after that. We're going to go ahead and aim a Psychic at the Hariyama, and neither of these Pokemon can protect now. So we're gonna go ahead and Vicious Rend the Cresselia. Amogus the switch in here, so we are gonna take a little bit of Rocky Helmet damage. That does a lot of damage still to that Amogus. And Hariyama eats a Psychic for his troubles. Now, actually knocking off my Choice Scarf actually does give me an option here, because I am packing Psychic Fangs. So we can actually just knock out this Amogus. Let's go ahead and go... I'm actually gonna just double target the Amogus just in case this has more physical bulk than I'm expecting. Psychic Fangs is just gonna go ahead and take it out. So Hariyama has to eat another Psychic for his troubles. We eat that knockoff just fine, and now he's down to just 2 Pokemon. I believe the last one is that Ursaluna. So we're going to go ahead and switch into the Clefairy, knock the Vicious Rend into the Hariyama, predicting a Protect from the Ursaluna. Actually going to switch into Cresselia here. Hariyama takes that Vicious Rend and goes down. Now we can go ahead and follow me and Vicious Rend. Like I said, this Cresselia cannot protect, so it should go down to this. And now Ursaluna is once again in a 3 versus 1, and we can just give a helping hand to our Dracovish to take out Ursaluna. And with that, that is another dominant win for your Manchester Bewears. What a bounce back in 2 weeks in a row that we have had. Your Bewears are in form, so make sure you keep cheering us on. Dracovish is feeling himself right now, absolutely rolling. So hopefully I will see you in the next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.